welcome back to Postmortem Radio. I'm your host, Oz, joined as usual by the lovely blonde in front, Katie. How are we doing tonight?
Fantastic. Excited to record for this film.
I knew you would be. I knew you would be. We talked about it before, and so I have not seen it, so I will take in your guys' takes and reviews, and then like some listeners, maybe decide whether I go get a chance to get out to the theater and take it in myself. So
I think that's an interesting spin on it because normally we all see it, so it's our
yep.
night to convince you or make you say it's not worth it. And I got to tell you something, Oz. If I was you though, I would have played it as if you saw it and you're just gonna rip it apart. You have no idea what you're saying. Just rip it apart.
Well, it's hard to rip
Oh yeah,
apart something that you haven't seen.
It's more fun.
Making stuff up that wasn't in the movie.
Exactly.
I hated this part when yeah, okay. Well, also joining us as always, the bald guy in the back, JK.
The bald guy in the back still here, working on a lot of stuff. Happy to be here, and it's nice with all of our schedules for a chance to record. So we're
Yes.
here, and we have a lot of fun with Talk to Me.
All right. Yeah, absolutely. We would love to, if we could get the chance to get our schedules to line up, we try to do that as often as possible, but, you know, life tends to get in the way. So,
Amen.
but that being said, obviously, we are going to be talking about Talk to Me. These two critics are going to give us their take, and we'll let Katie kick it off as she normally does, and give us a nice little package deal and a little summary of the film, and then we'll get into what you liked, what you didn't like, or things like that.
Well, I'm just gonna go with the IMDb like little snippet of it. When a group of friends discover how to conjure spirits using an embalmed hand, they become hooked on the new thrill until one of them goes too far. That's the condensed IMDb version. One of the things that I loved about this film is that immediately you have this like 5 to 6 minute long take, which is very subtle yet so well done. And I honestly didn't even know it was happening until I'm watching it and I'm realizing, and I actually turned to some people that I was with. I'm like, they haven't cut. They haven't, this is still going. Oh, it's still going. Oh, okay, now this a whole, oh, I was not expecting this. All right. And then the first kill just, oh, I mean, it gets you. And that to me was like, yeah, exactly. That to me was like hooked. Okay. If this is what the first like 10 minutes and under is like, hot damn, I'm all in for this. As the statement says about friends, trying to do this new thing. It is let's see, characters' names are Mia, who's played by Sophie Wilde. One to watch, people. She is freaking amazing. Mia and her friend, gosh, I'm sorry. Uh, well, there's Haley, there's Jade, who's played by Alexander Jensen, Haley, who's played by Zoe Tarakis, Joss, Chris Alazio, and then Jade's brother, Riley, who's played by Joe Bird. I mean, everyone in this cast I thought was honestly excellent. I thought they, like, unlike a lot of films I've seen this year depicting teenagers, one of the things I loved about the film is that they didn't overdo it. Even with the costuming, everything. I mean, there was baggy sweatshirts. No one was like looking like they were going to be in a TikTok video or something like that, or in some sort of commercial. They weren't like overly done up with makeup and hair. And I just thought that was real, and everyone was so natural. And I think one of the reasons for that is because the majority of the cast, like, this is like their first major screen debut. One of the veteran actresses that you will see, who Australian actress, love her, Miranda Otto. She plays Jade and Riley's mom. She is amazing. She is hilarious. She again is effortless. She has some fantastic lines, but the main thing that I loved about this film is the practical effects. When they go to the party to reach the hand, you have to grab it, and then you say, "Talk to me." When they do that, you see from the point of view from the person who has the hand, you see this ghost or apparition. If they let go of the hand, then the ghost goes away, and they're the only ones who sees it. You have to grab the hand again, say "talk to me," and then you say "let me in." The ghost goes in. You have 90 seconds. It does whatever it does, and then that's when it becomes very 2023. Zillennial, millennial, whatever, ennial, doing with the phones and all that stuff. I thought that was amazing. It was very of the time. It showed, again, just natural. And there was a couple of scenes that I felt like they gave a little tip to the hat to Event Horizon. This is filmed in Australia. Some of the dialogue may be a little hard to understand, but I thought it was great. I also love the fact that there is somewhat of an Australian trope regarding an animal that has been in so many films that they do. I actually got to speak to the directors uh, before the film came out. I thank them for using practical effects because they are chef's kiss. Honestly, the makeup is absolutely fantastic. And then I asked if if that was cheaper than CGI, and they're like, no, actually, the practical effects were way more expensive, but we didn't care because that's what we wanted. I gave them both hugs, and they seemed very appreciative of that because it's like I just thought it was beautiful. I love that they didn't do what seems to be an Australian horror trope, and I really hope these guys keep going on and doing more films. Like, I thought this was great. It's didn't feel that long. It ended great. It started great. The middle was nice. I actually like the fact that you have someone dealing with death that has been a topic with teenagers this year. I felt like a lot, but this one was definitely more respectful than a few of the other films that I've seen where kids aren't that stupid and just uncaring about what their friend or someone that they know is going through. I don't really have any negatives to say about it. Like, I thought this was amazing. Right now, it's my favorite horror film of the year. There's a few coming out in August. I think they're amazing. But yeah, I just think this is absolutely fantastic. It deserves the hype, and people should go see it. Jay, I know I talked a lot.
Now I am listening, and I will everything you said, Katie, was spot on when it comes to the film. It was a great ride throughout. And let's be honest about something. Just about every single film that comes out of Australia and is genre is fucked up. Okay. It's
Yeah.
it's it's there's an element of this film. Now, I was listening to you talk about the fact of death and how they're very respectful to it. And they do something which normally it's a trope that we see a lot where the protagonist, or in this case, spoiler, where it could be the antagonist of this film,
True.
it's kind of a gray area when it comes to this. She becomes not only motivated but obsessed by finding her mother in the afterlife after these terrible events that happen. And it does play on some familiar ground that we see. Most horror films play on the same familiar playground when it comes to a lot of the tropes. But one thing I will say, again, Sophie Wilde, Mia, was fantastic in this. But she does what I absolutely love of this generation. And for me, she becomes, as the film goes on, almost um, hard to cheer for, almost unlikable.
Yeah.
And the reason why is, for those who have not seen it, is when you look at a film like Talk to Me, which took 7, 8 years to be able to get done and developed. I read that, heard that in different interviews. I wish I had talked to the filmmakers. I missed my chance because they were there the week before at Fantasia, but they were fantastic. They were fantastic from what I understand. It's not surprising that these twins went ahead and created something like this. And it's not surprising this is coming out of A24.
Yeah.
A24 understands where it's coming from. They understand how to do it. They understand how to be effective. Do you want to call them a more elevated Blumhouse? You can, because they put out some really high, intense, high octane stuff that really, tingles the brain a lot. But A24 puts out some amazing stuff and creates not only captivating stories, but really captivating characters. And taking horror and using it as a platform, talking about suicide, talking about death, talking about teenage relationships, because some of those kids, I'm sorry, some of those kids were real dicks in this. But as you see, the character comes full circle when they realize that someone who is really underage goes through this, which I thought was a wonderful catalyst for how we really are introduced to it beyond just the little jump scares and little blurbs leading into it. We'll talk more about this, but I think my biggest complaint is I think the first act of it was a little slow. For me, it was a little bit slow. I expected a little bit more. There was it was more drama than anything else, which is fine. It's a nice way to elevate the storytelling and give us some background on what's going on. But I felt like they gave more of the story as they went into Act 2 and Act 3 rather than Act 1, at least for me. But overall, I mean, it's wonderful. And, you're talking about two directors who, one of them worked on The Babadook. A lot of the Australian genre cinema, that's there, they've been involved with over the last 5-6 years. So they understand how the game's played. They're willing to get this film done. Practical effects were wonderful, to say the least. And it's more than just a possession film. It's more than just an occult film. It's really a film that is about the humanity, the dark humanity, and where we can go. And it's done really effective. It's one of the more effective films this year. I don't know if it's my favorite film of the year for sure yet, because I think it's still too early. And I said that to you, Katie, same thing. And I have no issue with the fact that if it's your favorite, because honestly, right now it's probably top 5 for me. So it may move up. It may end up being the best of the year. And it's already, spoiler if you haven't heard, they've already shot a prequel to it, and they have greenlit the sequel already. So they're doing a Ty West with A24 here. So it makes the money. It's a quality film, and it's a fun ride. So it's my opinion in a nutshell.
Gotcha. Yeah, I noticed it's only, I mean, budget was like $4.5 million. And so
Oh yeah.
they didn't spend. I mean, they did this kind of on the cheap, and I mean, from everything you guys are saying, they did it in a very quality driven way. Especially like you said, Katie, with the practical effects and those actually being more costly than the CGI would have been.
Yeah.
So my curiosity with this film is this just another Ouija board film, but they just took the Ouija board out and put the hand in? I mean, is that kind of how this thing goes, or is there? It kind of sounded like
doorway.
Well, that's kind of like what the Ouija board's supposed to be too. But
it's interesting. Katie, go ahead. Go ahead.
No, because I know it's usually with Ouija, there's like one spirit associated with that specific board. With Talk to Me, it's honestly, these are a lot of disenfranchised and spirits that just have lost their way, that miss life, or are in the place where they're at because of like some of suicide or something they did. So then they want that company, and it's like, the company loves misery. And
okay.
I feel like with Ouija or Ouija board, it's usually, like I said, one spirit that's like sucked into that. So then they want to cause all this chaos. And with Talk to Me, there's just so much. There's like chaos abundant. There's like anytime someone grabs the hand, you get a new spirit. And that's the thing that I think, again, Danny and Michael Philippou, the practical effects on this are freaking amazing. Like the quality and just all the imagination they give, like each one of these apparitions, kind of ghosts, whatever, to show like one had had been in water and is like puffy and bloated and just gross, and then one's kind of a sex addict that's like all this stuff. I mean, it's fantastic. It also has a horror trope where you have like a child that's kind of like your guide to this underworld and all that stuff, which has actually seems to be, that's kind of becoming more of a thing in films now, where it's like, oh, follow the little girl, because what could they do wrong? Everything. Children horror films are horrible. Let me just say that.
I'll throw in also, and Oz, one of the things that's great about this is, yes, I understand your connection to the Ouija board, because honestly, that's a big pillar of what the 1980s horror was. I'm sorry to be like that, but that really is what it is. And I know you as a fan, you were more of a fan of the horror from the more vintage era, which is fantastic. What they do is something that you will appreciate from that era. And not only do they pull really creative practical effects and design here for these spirits, making them not gratuitous, not unneeded for it. They make each spirit connected, and they make it connected in a really interesting way. Two ways, actually. One, they use humor very effectively. When you
Yes.
start going through the teen montage of the hand and them and the all willing to try, just like the Ouija board, I can see the comparison. It's funny because they're all acting, because at the beginning they're really freaked out, and then it's like a fun orgy, all right, and not like a fun orgy, but mean like they're having so much fun. It's just it's not a little chaotic, but it's just a great time for them being kids, experiencing on something they know they shouldn't do when it comes to that. And the second thing is, and what I really love is, yeah, they're really smart in their edit. They're really smart
Yeah.
in their edit, because of the fact that at the beginning they tease it a little bit once the hand comes into play. Because the opening scene is a great shock moment. It is wonderful, because, and this is where the prequel will come into, really from, I guess, all we know right now is it'll be born from what happened there. But once they start playing with it, all of a sudden you start to see what's happening. They started off with just the burst, the jump scare, moving into playing with the hand and just getting the reaction of the actor to what they see, but no cut to the other side. And then all of a sudden, the cut is done to the other side, and slowly it's like pulling back the curtain for what these beings are. And they're not all tragic. You're right.
No.
Some of them are, it reminds me of a blend of 13 Ghosts and The Sixth Sense a lot when it comes to it, because you have a lot of these sympathetic ghosts, but in essence, you also have evil spirits that are sitting out there, which plays wonderful into that Ouija board trope. But the humanity and the humor that goes into it, it kind of relaxes you, because as the film goes on, it gets darker. And you really start to see Mia fall into that obsession. And then spirits that are taking over go ahead and manipulate her and everything around her. And you start to see something that I really love, and that's the group all of a sudden going, what did we do? Not, oh, it's going to be okay, it's this and that. You start seeing the effects, because, again, spoiler, the best friend's brother wants to do it. He wants to do it. He's only like 14 or 15, and he gets it really bad. And that's one of the greatest parts of this movie. God bless that actor for the practical effects he wears, because it is one of the hardest things, Katie, I think you'll agree, to look at in that film.
And that actor's name is Joe Bird. Again, look, as I said, the cast is fantastic. I thought each of them really captured their character well. But honestly, Sophie Wilde as Mia and Joe Bird as Riley, that's a whole nother level. Like, those
Crazy.
two names, make sure you memorize them, because they will be in more, well, at least I hope so. I hope they continue, because honestly, these are two of the performances that it's like, hot damn, where have you guys been? Please do not let someone sour you from the entertainment business, because we need more actors and actresses and entertainers like you. Absolutely fantastic. Both of their performances. But man, yeah, Jay is right. There's just it's hard to watch. It really is. I see you. I see what you're doing.
And you know what? If you liked Hereditary and you like Alex Wood smashing his face into the desk, you're gonna love Talk to Me, and what the character Riley goes through once he is possessed. Because there is a lot of possession films. I just this weekend, Susan and I watched The Possession, and we watched The Taking of Deborah Logan, which is another one with a tremendous performance and practical effects and everything with it. But I'll tell you what, this is the first time in a long time where I kind of turned my head, because the way they shot it, the quick cuts, the idea of the sound, it's just terrifying. And this is the beauty of A24 and independent filmmaking. I mean, it's a higher independent filmmaking, but when you have quality sound in the film, and this film has great score and great sound design and great sound edit, it just makes the horror almost unbearable at times. It's so tense, and so each hit and the way that they cut the reaction and the damage, all that, and it goes from being really fun and a nice pace and even keel to bam, 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 bam. And all of a sudden you're like, holy shit. And before you know it, it's just everything's in chaos, as Katie brought up. So
yeah. And one of the things that I thought was very cool during the Q&A, because I watched it for the second time and the directors were there during the Q&A, when they were talking about A24, one of the things that they, I mean, a beautiful thing that they had to say is that A24 didn't tell them, it's like, you know, you need to take this out, or you need to take this out. That they're like, yeah, no, we'll take it as it is. You know, let's do this. And it's like, and that's nice to see, because I would not want anything honestly taken out of this film. And I'm glad that these guys, I mean, they have such love for the genre. They're just raving about, like, and just fans. I mean, they're just fans of the genre too. Like, they were saying how, like, Guillermo del Toro, like, call us or text us. It's like, what? How does he have our number? What? And it's like, God, I love you guys. Like, please make more films. Like, what are you guys doing?
Right. Yeah. Well, speaking of the the other possession movies, I did finally get to finish and see The Pope's Exorcist, which I thought was I thought it was okay. I mean, I completely once again figured it out, but I mean, I called what was going to happen, and it pretty much did. But yeah, this one, it was a little bit more. I don't know. I really teeter on the whole exorcism kind of thing, because it really, the whole demonic thing kind of weirds me out a little bit. Like, I've only seen The Exorcist once, because it freaked me out so much when I was a kid. I know it's weird, but sometimes I don't know. I kind of.
Well, let me ask you this: do you consider demons and ghosts the same thing?
And I'll be honest with you, I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know. They could be. I mean, but I mean, I have a strong faith, and I believe that there are angels. If there are angels, there are also demons. That were once probably angels, just the same as Satan was. So I mean, you can't have good without evil.
Well, let me ask you a question, Oz, because this is something we haven't talked about, but Miranda Otto plays a really great role as the mom in this film. It's great to see her. I know she's done a variety of different films, more low budget.
I was going to say, she looks
since
familiar.
the Lord of the Rings, a long time ago.
Okay.
Yeah, long time ago.
Oh, I Frankenstein. Yeah.
It's got a great underlining theme of a protective parent, and parents who their impact in a child's life and where they go and how they progress. Knowing the fact that children are at risk, and knowing the fact of now what we've talked about here, when it comes to the younger character Riley and being possessed and the damage done, does that sort of push you away from wanting to see it, because you're a great father, you love your kids? Does it sour you on that because of you being a father?
Not really.
Okay.
I mean, because there's kids that have been in all kinds of different subgenres of horror films in the past, and I mean, I've grown up seeing teenagers get slaughtered just by making stupid decisions and doing dumb things, because that's what they do.
Well, then you love this film. Then you'll love this film.
Yeah.
Teenagers doing stupid things. Perfect.
Yeah, it's just yeah, it's the whole. I don't know. I'm just really kind of about ghosts and stuff like that because I'll be honest. I don't know if ghosts are real or not. I don't know. They could be, and if they are, I don't know that I want to know if they are real or not. I mean, I don't know. It's just one of those things. It could be. It couldn't. It might not be. I don't know.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair
It
enough.
kind of just really create. It really kind of gives me the creeps, and which is what it's supposed to do, I guess. But um, I guess where I draw the line is if it's too, because like I said, when I saw the devil or the Pope's Exorcist, from the time I saw the preview, I wanted to see it, even though I knew it was an exorcism movie, which kind of sounds the opposite of what I was saying. The Exorcist, I kind of, if it's too hardcore, blatantly like anti, you know, God kind of religion kind of, that's kind of like where I
Well, let me ask you
kind
this
of stay
because
away from it.
I haven't looked at the box office lately of it. I know everyone's celebrating, and this is a problem I have with horror. And I've talked about this on other episodes about films. My problem with horror is that if it makes any sort of money above its budget, it's considered to be the greatest film since sliced bread. And that's a problem I have with what they talk about with Talk to Me. It's a really great film. It does what it's supposed to do. I think it made, I don't know. If someone
You want
wants
to
to look at,
know?
yeah, because I remember it was opening weekend was like what, $10 million? Not
10
even that.
million, 10,431,000. The budget
Okay,
was 4.5 million. And right now, because that's what, 3 weeks, it's made worldwide is 27,338,000.
so
No
so
wonder
in
it's been
essence, it's making some money. So I'm glad to hear it made more than 10 million. But
making a
my
lot of
point
money.
is this, and Oz, this taps into one of the things about it. Does the fact that it's an A24 film turn you off? Because
Hmm.
that's one of the things that I've noticed more often now. When you've got more of the high elevated films and studios like this, which do a great job putting out a lot of amazing films, but in the same breath, you have a film like Bodies, 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 which was the worst film I saw last year. It was terrible. I don't care, but it was so unlikable that it was so predictable. It was stupid. I'm sorry, it was stupid. I don't care what Pete Davidson does. It's stupid. All
It
right.
had one of my favorite lines in a film last year. You said he was a vet. He is a vet. Technician.
Yeah, that
Technician's assistant. Like I'm like, what? That
Exactly.
is amazing.
Oh God.
no
But
That
but my
delivery was so great. It's like because everyone had these preconceived notions like, oh, it's gonna be so violent. It's like, yeah, he is a veterinary assistant or something like that. It's like, oh my God. So good.
but
but
I
No,
to
it
I
answer
was that was very a time capsule film. Like you want to see 2022, let's watch
that's
Bodies,
it
Bodies,
right there.
Bodies. Yeah.
You can watch it. I'm good. Go ahead, Oz.
no, to answer your question, the A24 it doesn't make any difference to me. The studio films, they all make good films, they all make turds. That's the way I look at it. So I mean that really doesn't, just because they may have made a bad film in the past, or there's always potential to make something good. And obviously, it's turned quite a profit, and you guys were favorable for it, and apparently we've got a couple of more films coming as a result. So,
Yep.
but yeah, the A24
Definitely.
thing doesn't turn me off at all.
Okay. I know because that's one thing I look at because yeah, it made about $20 million over budget, but to be honest, within like 2 weeks, 3 weeks, you didn't hear anything more about it. And
Yeah.
that's the thing, it's a good film, but there is a lot of films, and I'll talk about Fantasia real quick. Enjoyed going back to Fantasia after 4 years. Went there for a couple films, but more importantly, the Addams Family's latest film, which was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun. But that's a conversation for another time.
Mhm.
But my point is this: to be honest, 90 99% of the horror, 98% of the horror each year is forgettable, and it heads off to VOD, and you never hear a word from it. And I don't know if it's going to be, because being A24, they can make whatever they want, and they don't really care if it makes well at box office or not. Ty West film, you may love Pearl, you may love what was it, X, you may love Maxine coming up. I'll tell you what, I was not the biggest fan of X. I thought Pearl was way better than X. I'm not sure what Maxine's going to be, but I got to tell you, Ty West films are great, but they're nice to come back to. But what are you going to do? So a lot of stuff at film festivals, a lot of the smaller stuff is great, but it's got a shelf life of maybe the year, and then it kind of just goes off until nostalgic shows like us will bring it up later on a top 5 list for it. And that's the unfortunate truth about it. You know, that's a problem with it. So I look at it, and that's why I ask you about A24, Oz, because these art house kind of films, these indie kind of films, you know, people really, unless you are in that niche, or, you know, the promotion was so great, like this was a better version of Smile. Talk to Me was a better version of Smile, you know, and Smile had so much promotion to it. Talk to Me had so much promotion to it, but after 2 or 3 weeks, it just fades off into the sunset. So that's why I'm curious about it, if it's just not a film that really resonates with you and you really want to see it. Go ahead, Katie.
Well, and I understand. I mean, what you've been saying about A24, one of the things is that I've been hyping this film up. Like, I saw it, a month before the release date, and I had to keep my mouth shut, but I was talking about word of mouth. But as soon as I said that it was A24, because someone looked it up, they're like, I don't know. I'm like, look, I understand, because you know what? A24, pardon my French, shit the bed on their trailers. They hyped up these trailers. They made them look like they were a film that you end up watching, and that's not the film that you saw in the trailer. That is a detriment to what they have done for the studio. And I feel like a lot of people, then as soon as they see A24, it's like, oh, I don't even want to watch this. It's not going to be what I think. And it's like, that's why I'm like, look, don't go in there with a preconceived notion. I'm hyping this film up because this is a horror film that deserves the hype. I've talked about how I feel like 2023 has had a number of genre films that I love independent film. We all do. This is our bread and butter. You know, we've all worked on films. You made film, I produced all that stuff. But some of the stuff that's come out has just been absolute crap, that it's like, and they just keep saying, oh, it's next Exorcist. I don't want the next Exorcist. I want the Talk to Me that is now. And that is what I think. I think this film will last as long as people don't try and put it in the whole oh, well, it's an A24 film. No, it's a great horror film. And I feel like that is finally what A24 has been going back to. I know they don't think oh, it's not, it's like this huge studio. Look at all the Oscars it's won and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, yeah, it won Oscars for Everything Everywhere All at Once. But that film, do you think any of those people thought they were going to get Best Picture? Any of that stuff? That was complete shock to everyone involved. But I think it deserved it. I thought it was great. And I just want A24 to be doing more things that they're doing now. Let these creatives be creative. Let them go nuts for this budget that they're having. I mean, this is nothing compared to what Disney and Paramount and Warner Brothers and Sony are doing. I mean, if they can make a film that's this quality, then freaking do it, because that's what we need. Not this crap that's come out at the beginning of the year that's been overhyped, that then people yell at me and I'm like, I didn't back that shit up. I thought that was crap, and I made sure people knew about it.
By the way, shout out to Ben Wheatley for the Meg 2.
I still need to reluctantly see that.
I'll tell you what.
I just got back from seeing it, and yeah, it was.
Here's the thing. If there isn't a press screening for it, that's always a sour note for me. If they don't have one of those in Chicago, and I mean, I was gone last week when it should have come out, and I realized, I'm like, I didn't get a notification regarding this. And I talked to my critics groups, I'm like, did you guys have one of these? Like, nope. I'm like, well, then that's all I need to know.
Well,
Well,
let me say this.
Go ahead.
Let me say this. I think it was a little bit, not that it's a very much of a ringing endorsement whatsoever, because I was not crazy about the first one. I mean, the first 10 or 15 minutes I thought was great, but you know, just because of how beautifully shot it was when they went down, you know, to the bottom of the ocean and everything. That part I thought was cool, but the rest of it I wasn't crazy about. This one I think was a little bit better, a little bit, but it's definitely still got its cornmeal. Let me just say
Of
that
course.
it's got
It's popcorn. It's popcorn cinema. Just sit back and shut your brain off.
I don't know.
you have to
I
really
mean, that's
shut your
like,
brain off on some of these scenes in this movie.
I mean,
Really,
is it like elevated sci-fi? Because that's what I'm gathering from what I've seen. And that's and by the way, that I just coined that term. So if anyone tries to steal it, blonde in front, said it first. Elevated sci-fi. Elevated sci-fi. Okay. We
Well, there
all know
was
what
an
that
elevator
means.
in it. There was an elevator in it. So you're right. Elevated sci-fi. There you go.
There you go. You know what that means? It means Sharknado with on big
No,
screens, a little
no,
bit bigger
no, it's
budget.
not
absolutely.
that bad. It's not that bad.
No,
It's not as bad as Sharknado.
and for
Is the
those
story
who,
that bad though?
it's campy.
Yeah.
It's a. I mean, it's pretty. I mean, I knew. Again.
Rudimentary.
Yeah, it's pretty fundamentally, you know,
A
typical.
lot of suspension of belief, a lot
A
of suspension.
Of
lot,
course. Well, the
a
first one,
lot.
Jason Statham punched a shark. Come on, come on, give it a break here. But I bring it up because Ben Wheatley, Kill List, you know, High Rise, a lot of great films that genre
Yep.
fans really love. Speaking, I think of A24. You know, he's done a lot of great stuff. He really has. So I was very surprised. But I won't lie, and a lot of people look at it. I think overall for what it was, he did great at the box office with the Meg too. So you know what? It's a fun movie. It's definitely not a sci-fi Sharknado type. It's got a higher production quality to it. And Oz is right. The underwater scenes, what they are able to do, beautiful. I
Yeah.
mean, beautiful. And it's got some great jump scares with the Megadon. It's just it's a lot of fun to see. And it's also, and this is again, we talk about Talk to Me and the Meg 2. And one thing they do have in common, well, two things. One, passionate directors that are making things. I guess Ben Wheatley must love this, or it was a great paycheck, one or the other. Is the fact that they both films should be seen in the theater. I saw the Meg 2 in 3D, and it was a lot of fun in 3D. But Talk to Me, you should see in the theater
Yeah.
because the sound, the way it projects on the screen, the use of color and light, wonderful. And so it's definitely a film if you get a chance to see Talk to Me on screen, different than Bodies, or X or films like that where it really doesn't capture it. This film does in certain areas, and it's definitely a theatrical film for a genre fan.
I
Yeah,
agree, especially to be a captive audience and really see those practical effects that they utilize in the film for Talk to Me. I think it's best to see it on the big screen. I think the montage scene that you had talked about where they're having fun, it's doing this, I think that was great. And that also is something that should be seen on the big screen. But yeah, I mean, look, I've been raving about this for weeks. I mean, it's made $28 million with Barbie competition, with Oppenheimer competition, with Haunted Mansion. I mean, this is not an easy time for it to come out, and yet it still did really, really well for $4 million budget.
You know what, Katie, I'm glad you bring that up because that's one thing I do want to comment on. You couldn't have picked a shittier time to release that film. And
Exactly.
if you had released it a month earlier, you would have been gold because you would have not had the deal. And that's exactly why perhaps it only made 28 million because Barbie and Oppenheimer came out because we know it isn't the Haunted Mansion that's bringing in money. We know it's not a lot of stuff, but Barbie took away that crowd that people wanted to go see that film. I'll make that bet.
So I'm going to actually say nay on that. I do not think it coming out a month ahead would have been better for it because you had Indiana Jones, which at that time, that was the only film that was coming out. Then 2 weeks later was Mission Impossible. The thing is that with Barbie and Oppenheimer, since they're selling out so much, if people can't get into those films, you almost have a run out from like, okay, well, let's go see Talk to Me. I think Theater Camp is having hopefully the same success, which, by the way, totally different film. Love it. Cult classic in the making. One of my favorite films of the year. Mwah, mwah, mwah. Make more films like that, people. But because Barbie and Oppenheimer have done so well, like I'm going to the theater, I've not seen this in years. Like even going to the screenings this week, still 9-10 o'clock on weekdays, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, people in pink, people going to the theater. I'm like, hot damn, good. And again, if they can't get into Barbie, because I mean, sometimes they're still sold out. It's nuts. They're going to see another film. And I think Talk to Me, look, I think it's solid horror, solid film, solid all the way through. I think that if that's something that you maybe didn't plan to see, or if you did plan to see, I feel like if it had come out sooner, you would have had The Blackness and Joyride and a couple of those films that kind of like they didn't know where to go, like sort of the comedy sort of thing that it didn't fall into place. I feel like this benefited from the shit show that has been Barbenheimer, but it's been a cinephile and cinematic like absolute extravaganza. So I'm happy that I think this is really helping all these little films get that little engine that could.
I couldn't agree more with you. Oz, anything else?
Well, I think honestly, listening to what you guys said about it, I think I'm gonna try to carve out some time to get to the theater and check it out.
All right, good.
High five! High five! High five!
So that's my take. You guys, we got 2 thumbs up here, so go check it out.
We did it!
Drop a comment, let us know what you think. Maybe you'll hear us. We'll give you a shout out on the next episode. All right. Any last words, guys?
Go see Talk to Me, support independent horror, go see some horror movies in the theater, and tell us what you want us to review next.
All right. Come see us at Horror Hound in Indianapolis next weekend.
That's right. And let Postmortem in.
Let Postmortem in. All right. Well, that's it for us. And take care of each other. And we will see you in the next one. Hey, baby. All right.
All right, Oz, I let you in.
You let me in? All right.
Let you in.
And Katie's got the hand. Talk to the hand.
Talk to me.
Wow. Talk to me.
Yeah.